I can't remember the last time I woke up thinking the day could be normal. Every morning is the same. I sit in traffic, cursing everything. From the coffee I spilled in the car again to the radio playing the same fucking morning show, where the hosts laugh like someone's tickling their tongues in their pants. I get to the office at 8:53. At 9 the meeting starts. Formally, a morning stand-up. In reality, torture. Pointless, infuriating, only extending my life in hellish dimensions. The meeting isn't to get us on the same page, not to understand progress, but so that he, the boss, can sit there with his mug that says teamwork makes the dream work and breathe down our necks over Zoom, sometimes not even turning on his camera, and just look for something to nitpick. We report what we did yesterday, what we'll do today, and if there are blockers. That's it. It could take 2 to 3 minutes per person. There are 6 of us in the team, max. 20 minutes if someone has verbal diarrhea. But no. We sit there for an hour because this left swipe human always asks clarifying questions like, why didn't you update the task in Jira at 17:30 yesterday like you usually do? I saw you updated it at 17:42. 17 fucking minutes he spent figuring out why I updated the task 12 minutes late. And sent. I wanted to reach through the screen into his room, grab that mug, and shove it up his... Well, you get it. He doesn't yell. He's not rude. It's worse. He's slippery. A smart, cold, pedantic asshole. He builds his power not on fear, but on exhaustion. He turns any microscopic thing into a dissectable frog that must be cut open, gutted, discussed, and then stretched over your face while he says, "Look, you're a frog. Fix yourself." I can't just zone out, because if you suddenly don't answer instantly, he'll note it. He counts the seconds of your silence. He keeps spreadsheets. I know this. Once at the end of the week he told a colleague he'd had 16 seconds of delayed responses during meetings that week. 16, Carl. Who even counts that? He does. You sit there feeling yourself rust inside, and then I notice hair. First a couple on the pillow, then in the shower, and then on the sheet in front of me during the meeting. I print my report every morning, put it on paper, just so my eyes don't get tired. By 9, I sit down with the sheet. By 10, there are 5 to 6 of my hairs on it. Once, 11, I counted. It's like balding live on air. I'm losing hair because of these meetings. Seriously, I checked, Googled it. Chronic stress, prolonged tension, internal conflict, no escape, and hello, baldness. I'm not stupid. I know I can quit. I'm not enslaved, but you don't know how it works if you've never been stuck in a good, stable, well-paying job that slowly kills you. It's a gilded cage. Only the bars are made of microcontrol, burnout, and indecision. I have a mortgage, health insurance, a fucking student loan, and a mother with diabetes. I can't just walk away. I tried talking to HR. Mary's there, the eternal HR flower, with eyes like a golden retriever. She listened, nodded, and then said, maybe he's just very detail-oriented? Detail-oriented? Him recording what tone of voice someone had on which day. That's not detail orientation, that's fucking control, Mary. And you know what happened next? A day later, the boss writes to me on Slack. I want to ensure you feel comfortable in the team. I'm open to feedback. Feedback, fuck. Then you realize if you say anything, they'll start digging into your grades, tasks, workload, looking for where you underperformed. Because if anyone challenges his regime, he stages a quiet little execution with spreadsheets in terms like inconsistency and lack of communication transparency. Bitch. I feel all this eating me from the inside. How every day I think about spilling coffee on his laptop. Just to feel some control, something I did myself. Of my own will, without permission. I think about it more and more, about paying him back, not violently, not physically, but soulfully. When I first joined this company, I was honestly bursting with excitement. The salary level was such that I felt like I'd won the fucking lottery. Bonuses, premiums, insurance, hell, they even paid for a gym membership. You just walk into the office, bright glass with views of the New York skyline, and feel like part of the elite. Almost, because even then, on the first day I noticed something weird. Most men over 30 there are bald, and not just bald, shiny domes, like they conspired. I even joked to myself, is this the corporate haircut? One of the team leads, Mike, caught my glance, smiled and said, welcome to the club, you've got a couple years. I laughed too, but inside I felt uneasy. Oh well, I was still a naive idiot back then. A bit chubby, yes, always with a sweaty forehead, glasses always slipping, not one chin but a family. But I had hair. Thick normal hair. And I fucking cherished it. Now, 6 months later, I'm sitting in our morning call as usual. We have these daily meetings where everyone has to report on their work. Realistically, it could take 15 minutes, but our boss, let's call him Mr. Johnson, and loves stretching it to an hour. He seems to get off on his subordinates' suffering. He loves IT, asking idiotic questions, nitpicking phrasing, telling pointless stories, laughing alone in silence like anyone besides him finds it funny. I'm sitting there holding a white sheet. I jot down what I'll say. Then I notice a hair on it. One, black, mine. Then a second. I look down at my knees, two more. I run my hand over my crown and feel that familiar sliding, and everything inside me goes cold. I remember those bald colleagues, as if seeing them again. The receding hairlines all start the same way, at the crown. For some, it's neat, for others, abrupt. Mike, a completely clean tower, like shaved with a razor. Dan, something between a monk's crown and a baby's butt. And now, to me. At first I thought, well, stress, just stress, no big deal. But I'm not an idiot. I spend every day in this office like it's a cage. I don't sleep well, I eat like a vending machine junkie. I even go to the bathroom on a schedule because we have glass walls and to where you can see who's going where and for how long. Meetings with Johnson are a special kind of hell. He sits, legs crossed, clicks his pen, and acts like he doesn't care about your report. Then starts firing off phrases like, "Why did you choose this particular approach? Are you sure this is the optimal solution? Let's think together. How would you improve this? Are you fucking kidding me? Is this what you call thinking together?" It's an interrogation. And every time after these morning tortures, I'm wrung out like a rag. And now, hair. I started Googling. Typical reaction, right? Why hair falls out at the crown, male alopecia, link between stress and baldness. And yes, of course, everything points to one thing: chronic stress, hormonal spikes, prolonged tension. Everything I feel every day in this fucking office. So you sit there, looking at your sheet with hairs, and you start shaking. Not from fear, but from rage. Because you realize, P didn't sign up for this. You came here to work, earn, live, and now you're a polding, bespectacled freak with trembling hands and insomnia. At lunch I chatted with a guy from the next department. He's been here 4 years. I casually, friendly asked, "Hey, did you start going bald after you joined too?" He laughed and said, welcome. We have a joke here, a lake in the forest on your crown. Like if you survive Johnson, you get a baptism of enlightenment. And his laugh was, how to put it, preach hollow. Tired. Like he'd already given up. But me, Trudeau, I won't become another dome under this neon lighting. I won't watch pieces of me leak out every day. I don't want to be that meme clerk with a lifeless gaze and an egghead. And somewhere between the third fallen hair and Johnson's fourth clarifying question, something in my head clicked. Not loud. No flashes. Just click. And a thought appeared. Not a plan. Just a thought for now. What if? I honestly tried to convince myself everything was fine. Like, it's just age and just stress. And yeah, just the price of success. You know, I'm making so much money. For a guy my age, I'm not even 25 yet. It's like being handed a Lamborghini right after getting your license. I don't just have a good salary. I have a salary that made my classmates stop texting me out of envy. My annual is 3 digits. Won't say how much, just say it's closer to Google than McDonald's. Trusses, bonuses so big my bank account is now insured against any fires. And like baldness, not the worst price for all this, right? Like, bro, aren't you a man? Can't handle a few fallen hairs for the sake of future, comfort, stability? And I seriously started bargaining with myself. Like, you'll buy supplements later, get a transplant, wear a hat, whatever. You weren't a looker anyway, but you've got cash. Career is the main thing. Don't be a pushover. And that voice in my head, it crushed me. Like I'd become my own boss now. Worse than Johnson. I started avoiding mirrors, not on purpose, just didn't look at my reflection. Showered blind, threw the comb in a drawer, like the less I see, the less it exists. But it all ended when I came home from work one day. Nothing special happened that day. Just another meeting, another brain frying, another question where you can't win because the game's rigged. I walked into the bathroom to wash my face, and poured in accidentally, caught my reflection in the mirror from a different angle, not straight on, a bit sideways, from above, and I froze. Saw those fucking receding spots. Not extreme yet, not huge, but they were there. But to my face, I know how my forehead looked. Now it's retreating by a centimeter, a trifle. But you can't unsee it. I stood there, just froze, for 10 minutes, just stared at myself. And the only thing in my head was, so this is who you are now. So chubby, bespectacled clerk with trembling hands and the beginnings of a bald dome. And why? Because you're afraid to lose your salary? Because money matters more than your face? Because Mort, you're afraid of being nobody? And I was surely scared. Not of poverty, not of getting fired. Not afraid that after everything I'd been through, I'd just disappear. Become part of this balding army of ghosts wandering the office in identical shirts and smiling because there's no other choice. And that's when something clicked inside me again. Not loud. Plick. Only this time, I didn't brush it off. I just looked in the mirror, nodded at myself, and said aloud, "Okay, Johnson, we play for keeps. I have a dad, 50 years old. He spent half his life on construction sites, then retrained as a foreman. Quite a character. Chubby, smiley, wears a cap even indoors, and always, eats sunflower seeds like he's stuck in the 90s. I love him very much. He was never super smart, like not a professor or psychologist, just always there. Never yelled, never hit, never lectured, just listened. Sometimes dropped phrases I'm still digesting. I visited him on Saturday, just because, like for pancakes, but really, because my head was a hurricane. I sat, ate, played with their dog. Then just said, "Dad," my hair's starting to fall out. He looked at me, blinked, touched his own bald spot, already an island but not catastrophic, and said, "Well, congrats, son. Welcome to the Forever Young, Forever Bald Club." I snorted. "I'm serious. It's not funny. I don't want to be bald." He was silent for a second, then said, "Listen, I went almost bald at 28. No money back then, shit was falling apart everywhere, and you'd just been born. I was afraid Mom would leave me because I looked like a blockhead." "Me? And?" He smirked. Then I realized, you can be bald and a loser, or you can be bald and a fruity king. The difference isn't in the hair. The difference is how you enter the room. Me. What if I don't feel like a king? He looked at me and said, "Well, then maybe you shouldn't be bald, huh? Me? What? Him, if it's eating you from the inside. If you can't look at yourself in the mirror. If when you're 24 and already hate mornings, maybe screw those dollars. But it's worry a shitload of money, Dad." He shrugged. "I've never seen in my whole life what you make in a quarter. But you come home like a ghost. Simps and pennies aren't worth it if you turn into shit." And he just got up, went to put the kettle on, and said, "Money is a thrill. But if you lose yourself because of it, that's not payment. That's tribute. Tribute." Honestly, I thought about this and shimbied a whole way home, about my dad's words, about my anger, about how I wake up in a cold sweat not from poverty but from feeling like I'm turning into someone's shitty shadow. I couldn't sleep all night. The same thing spun in my head. What if? And then it hit me like a bolt of lightning. Why the hell should I stay silent? Why does he, that smug piece of shit in an expensive jacket, have the right to put people on their knees? Wipe his feet on us like we're numbers in his spreadsheets? I don't want to quit. I like the team. We have a cool office, comfy chairs, play board games on Fridays, and eat pizza. But if she squeezes everything out of me, I won't be able to enjoy it. So I made a decision. I'll make Johnson, that corporate Sauron in a Brooks Brothers suit, come down to earth. He'll feel what it's like, Trento lose control. Sal, if I succeed, fantastic. If I get caught, fuck it. I have more money in my deposit than my dad ever had in his life. I can survive getting fired, and I'll set and walk out with my head high. I sat at my computer, opened my notebook, and just started writing. First dried in writing, the plan. First draft, just ideas, stupid, bold, absurd. But among them, when a move lay hidden. I stared at the screen like it could give me a hint. No brilliant ideas surfaced. There was only one feeling, but I have to do something. Revenge isn't a rational process. It starts with emotion. But if you want it to be beautiful, you have to give it structure. For the first couple of hours, I just went through options in my head. From simple, tell him to his face everything I think, yeah, genius to absurd, put a hidden speaker under his chair and play fart sounds via Bluetooth. Also not the worst option, by the way. But everything seemed either dumb or too risky. Then I thought, what if not alone? Maybe it's someone else involved? I have decent colleagues, guys from the dev team, not just IT guys, but real fighters. They endured Johnson's morning terror too. They know how he can strip you down to your underwear with words, even if you did everything to spec. I'm sure they'd support me. I remembered Chris, who once snapped and almost quit after Johnson politely compared his work to code written between 2 beers and a stroke. I remembered Laura, who filed 3 complaints about him with HR Don, and each time it got lost, they'd pitch in. I even started writing a message in the group chat. Guys, anyone want to have some fun? I have an idea, but then I froze. Finger over enter, and hesitation. What if we get caught? I'd be thrown out first. But him too. I know what it's like to be jobless. Chris has a wife, a small child. Laura has a mortgage. The others have equally real lives. Funnest is my circus to start, my personal trigger, my personal balding. And if I drag them into this, what kind of person am I? Put the phone down, deleted the message. No, I don't want to. I'll do it alone. If it works, thrill. If I get caught, it's my fault, only mine. And then, surprisingly, I felt lighter. I felt a bit freer. No need to explain anything to anyone. No leaks, no what if someone blabs. I opened a text file, wrote a title at the top, Plan, Mr. Penis, and smiled, for real. First time in a long time. I started by arriving at work 20 minutes early, not because I became disciplined, but because I wanted to observe. I needed to understand everything: who comes in when, who turns on the lights first, the sequence the monitors boot up, when coffee breaks happen, and most importantly, and how my boss leaves. He didn't have a set leaving time. He could bail at 18:05 or stay until 19:30, depending on his mood, the weather, and some secret internal logic only his bald crown understood. I made an Excel table, named it temp.finfont model, 24v3, FINAL. A normal, unremarkable sheet pretending to be a finance module for analytics, but really, it was a spy chronicle. Columns, date, boss's entry time, boss's exit time. Break taken? Wine, coffee cups consumed. Time sneezed, yes, I recorded that. Mood emojis. I became like a guard at a hunting lodge. Sat there, munched a cookie, and recorded his every move. After 5 days, I had a Moss behavior profile Shannon any behavioral analyst would envy. And sent observation in 1. Every morning he enters at 9:45. At 9:47 he pours coffee. At 9:50 he opens Outlook. At 9:52 his meeting starts. Lunch, he, sure and always, leaves at 13. Returns at 13:42. Not 43, not 45. At 13:42, maybe an observation too. He always places his coffee mug on the left edge of the desk. Phone, on the right. AirPods next to it. He wears AirPods even when not listening to music, maybe to seem busy. Observation. When he goes to the bathroom, he never locks his screen. This seems suspicious. I decided to test it. Once I heard him heading toward the bathroom. I instantly jumped up, walked past his computer, paused for a second. And yes, Shint in the screen was active. I even managed to see he had Notepad open with a file named Q4clientreport.draft.txt and a YouTube tab with best ways to motivate your team. Funny. Motivation, sure. Now, the cameras. I'm not a techie, but our office is simple enough. 1. At the entrance, a ceiling camera facing the turnstile. Films and everyone entering and exiting. 2. In the hallway, a camera aimed at the meeting room door and the kitchen. 3. Inside the office space. No cameras. None. Not on the ceiling, corners, or lamps. I even pretended to look for a spider in the corner to glance higher. Empty. White ceiling. This meant if I entered his office, only a person could see me. And if done during lunch, while everyone's hanging out in the kitchen or smoking by the entrance, then I'm completely alone. Now, about his computer, I'd long suspected his passwords were simple. Once I saw him type something like STEV3NC enroll 2024%, and it already seemed too simple for someone managing people. A couple weeks later, I noticed him entering the same password but slower, and I managed to memorize part of it. See and roll 2025%. Meaning he just incremented the year. Just. The year. I realized he updates his password monthly by adding a number. Classic, cool pass 0, 1%, cool pass 0, 202, etc. Only he did it on a once-yearly basis. So, if I know the date in his habit, I know the password. But the most interesting thing happened by chance. I was standing by the printer and saw him copying files to a flash drive. A plain black flash drive, no stickers. He sat down and typed on the screen, work auto templates, signatures. Meaning he really stores templates locally. So I could alter not the server, not the CMS, but the type of files. Local files. And then, everything he sends, everything he writes, would contain entity new reality. To test my theory, I used his methods. Created a folder on my laptop. Put inside a text file with a signature, an Excel with auto formulas, an HTML email template, a BAT file to run the replacement via PowerShell. It felt like preparing for Black Widow ops. I carried the flash drive with me, even to lunch. Constantly checked if the script worked. It was supposed to. 1. Find the signature file and replace Stephen Carroll with Mr. Penis Candle 2. Open the report template and change author, Stephen to Penis C. 3. Insert the new signature into the email form. 4. Delete itself 30 seconds after execution. The last step was crucial. I searched long for a way to erase traces. Found it. A BAT file can delete itself by calling a separate process via CMD C timeout T5 and del and 0. It looked like the script hid in the bushes, fired, and vanished. The last thing, to know how much time I had. I knew. He leaves at 13, returns at 13:42, spends 7 minutes on the elevator, smoking area, and bathroom. Left, approximately T-cent 35 minutes of pure time. I calculated. The script runs in 25 seconds. Enter, insert flash drive, click, confirm, exit. Preaching max, 3 minutes. But even with prep, I knew simulation is one thing, reality is another. In reality, hands shake. In reality, you sweat, drop the flash drive, hit the wrong button. So I bought two identical flash drives. One, working. The second, a decoy. If caught, I'd say I was transferring vacation photos. I even started shorts rehearsing. Sat at home, set a timer, timed everything, stand up, walk to laptop, insert, open, run, delete, remove. Leave. I trained my hand to automaticity. Fingers moved over the flash drive like a musician's over strings. The last thing, I drew an office map. Point A, my zone, point B, kitchen, point C, boss's office, point D, printer, cameras, marked with red dots, movement paths. Green looked almost like a bank heist, and I felt less like an IT guy, more like an undercover agent. The calendar said 6 days away, 4th. End of the month, 6 days away, meaning the password hadn't changed yet. Script ready, flash drive ready, schedule known. I was ready. Okay, I admit, maybe I overdid it with coffee, or anxious fantasies, or eating yogurt with no expiry date. But my stomach churned all day, literally, physically. I ran to the bathroom like an NPC with bugged animation, 4 or 5 times before noon. Even the cleaner gave me sympathetic or suspicious looks, thinking I was hiding from work. Though I was hiding, not from work, but from my own conscience screaming, and you're about to hack the boss for the word penis in email signatures. Are you sane? Anyway, time around 13:10. I go to the bathroom for the 5th time. Stress is off the charts, sitting on the throne scrolling Reddit on my phone when suddenly, shut plop. Pause, a watery sound, soft, humiliating. You know that, I heard you wanted sabotage? Well, here's your flash drive in the shit. I couldn't believe it. I looked down, in my USB flash drive. The very one I'd manually packed last night to send with my modest dreams of revenge for baldness. In the toilet, in the waters of chaos. And something seemed organic on it. My brain shut off. I stood, took off my jacket, hung it on the hook, rolled up my sleeves. Like I wasn't about to fish shit out of a toilet, but defend my family's honor in a duel. I looked around. No one. just me and my honor. I plunged my hand into the water. I didn't think, just grabbed it. Fwet, flippery warm, like someone had oiled it, and dropped it into hell. I wrapped it in toilet paper. Then, I poured out wet wipe Boston from my pocket. Then more paper. Felt like disinfecting life itself. Checked, the drive was intact. Smelled, well, not like a USB, but whatever. Main thing, it was here. I dashed back to the office. Everyone thought I had intestinal Armageddon. They left me alone. This was my chance. I plugged the drive into my computer, waited, silence. No beep boop, no autorun. Nothing. I stared at the screen. It stared back. We both pretended this moment didn't exist. I pulled the drive out, wiped it on my jacket lining, plugged it back in. Silence. Third try. Fourth. Opened my computer. Even rebooted. When sent to flash drive was dead. That's it. The end. My grand mission. My masterpiece of autocorrect. My John, penis regards, go fuck yourself. All down the drain. Literally, the time, 13:32. At 18, by policy, and password reset. The boss's password was Bossman2024. If he updated it, I'd never send guess the new one. Meaning, hey new flash drive, then a new template. Ain't bet who new attempt, if there even was one. Now what? Now I stood holding a flash drive that smelled like something had... For a second I thought I'd just get up, grab my jacket and leave. Like forever. Like becoming that guy who just never came back from lunch. And when they remember him in the office later, hey, remember. That guy? The one with the beard who always drank cinnamon coffee? Yeah. Vanished like morning mist. Probably went to Thailand. But instead, I just sat, buried my forehead in the desk, and started laughing. Not hee-hee, not ha-ha. A drawn-out, aching ha when you realize everything you did the last 2 weeks literally went drowned in shit. Ain't literally. And weirdly, I felt lighter, like someone flipped a switch inside and said, maybe stop being afraid, huh? I stood up, silently, calmly. I no longer felt anxious. I felt nothing at all. My body was spun strangely cold, like I was a corpse that hadn't realized it was dead yet. And with this inner calm, not angry, not happy, just empty about it, I headed to the boss's office. I knew in advance when he'd be gone. It was the one time of day % he always left Dante for a meeting, corporate, important, on Zoom. And he did it from the conference room because it had a sufficiently boring background, as he said. I'd checked. 3 days straight. Same route, same 40 minutes. The office was empty. Lights on. I closed the door behind me. Not locked, just shut. All I needed. 15 minutes. I set a timer. Not kidding. Literally set a 15-minute silent vibrate alarm on my phone. According to plan. Hashtag, what I did, one. When I created a word macro, autocorrect, regret, John, penis, regards, go fuck yourself. Deadline. Goddamn ticking bomb. 2. Hidden the macro in a custom template, not normal .m, but a separate .x that loads automatically via word settings whenever a new default document opens. 3. Named the template styles-corp.txt to look like a system file. 4. The macro autoload path. Took longer than I thought, but with my clumsy hands, it's routine. All that fiddling with paths and app data, templates, trusted locations. Damn. But I managed. 5. Show. Tested it. Opened Word. Typed, hi John, just reminding you about the deadline. Regards, God, hi penis, just reminding you about the goddamn ticking bomb. Go fuck yourself, I exhaled. I fucking exhaled. When it worked. I saved everything. Closed. Deleted from recent files. Wiped the path. Checked logs, as much as possible. I knew it wasn't perfect, that traces might linger somewhere, but I wasn't afraid anymore. You know, sometimes you, too, don't worry, because you believe it'll work. Other times, you pin on worry time because you simply don't care. I had the second. When I got back to my desk, I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel triumph. I just felt my body trembling. But not from fear, from cold. I was like a corpse that just finished its last task. And maybe in that moment, I understood when something broke in me. But something was born too. When I returned to my office, I didn't smile. I didn't feel anything. Not triumph, not relief. I just turned on the monitor and realized my palms were sweaty, though my fingers were cold, like ice. I sat for 5 minutes, staring at a spot on the screen, unmoving. Waves hit me. I wanted to laugh, then to puke. It's like after a fight where no one hits you, but you still shake because you fought anyway. Then I said aloud, "Fuck it, we'll calm down." It went perfectly, and heard my voice tremble. I grabbed the mouse, opened Spotify, hit play on the deep focus and playlist. Yeah, fuck, sure. Meditation playlist in headphones after sabotage, very healthy reaction. The next morning, I arrived at work at 8:20, before anyone, sat down, warmed up breakfast, made coffee, sat, waited. It felt like a scene from a cheap thriller, and he returned to normal life, or thought he did. At 8:56, the office door swung open. Johnson walked in, jacket slung over his backpack, coffee in hand, tired, sat at his desk, turned on his computer. I heard his cooler whir. Then, silence. 10 seconds, 15, 20. Then suddenly, does anyone know why my regards turns into, what the? I didn't turn around, just stood up and went for more coffee. My body was buzzing with nervous electricity, but my face, calm. I even yawned, on purpose, for style. Then it played out like a bad comedy. He started testing, typed phrases in Word, stared, silently. Then out loud, "Penis Johnson. Who the fuck is doing this?" I sat with a sandwich. Someone giggled. Someone stared silently at their screen. I didn't move, like a Buddhist statue with a mouse. The next day, another outburst. Turned out he'd emailed a client, with the signature, "See Miss Johnson, Senior Project Manager greater than image, and we expect to meet the goddamn ticking bomb by Friday." I saved that screenshot. Not for blackmail, not for clout, just to want to remind myself, sometimes karma is you. Then he called IT Sen. Chaos ensued. 3 days straight he was with support. Tried to roll back templates, checked global macros, but I wasn't stupid. I hid everything in a custom template, disguised it as a system style, and deleted my tracks. IT found nothing. And then came the sweetest part. He started in writing reports manually. Seriously. Typing, printing, signing, scanning, attaching to emails. Wrote nothing else in Word. #Sen. Came the soft, gradual retreat. Dailies got shorter, sorter. Instead of 60 minutes, 15. Comments directed at me vanished. I could say working on task X, no blockers, and that was it. He nodded. He didn't pick fights anymore. Maybe he knew, maybe not. Maybe he thought someone ain't above him hacked him, or a client. But he definitely became more cautious, softer, quieter. And me, I started sleeping. Normally, without thoughts about meetings, without valerian. My hair stopped falling out. Seriously. I photographed my pillow a week later, not a single hair. Was I an asshole? Most likely, yes. Was I right? Who knows? But now he'd 20s understood a little kind of what it's like to live in constant tension. Or be ashamed, to be afraid, to distrust even your own computer. Sometimes I think that was the moment I crossed a line. But you know what? Sometimes you need to. Otherwise, they'll just eat you alive. It's been about a month and a half since Penis Johnson officially became a local meme. He never found out who did it, or at least never admitted it. He bought a new computer by the 3rd week, stopped opening Word even accidentally, typed emails in Notepad plus copied them to the browser client, then sent them. All this time he was not different, but like someone slightly pulled the battery out of his back. Every morning he entered the office with his signature "Good morning, team," only now his voice had a note that sounded like, "Please, no surprises today." And me? I started living, not immediately, not suddenly, just I noticed. My shoulders didn't tense up when I heard his voice. How I could just eat lunch without rehearsing answers to "Why did you choose this approach?" How I could work, not defend myself. It was like a weight lifted. The armor didn't exactly shatter, but cracked. And for the first time in a long time, I could breathe deeply. Once I lingered in the kitchen, making coffee while someone from analytics posted a client email screenshot in the group chat, "Hey penis, just looping back on the goddamn ticking bomb thing." Someone snickered. Someone said, "Now that's some fucking corporate culture." And me. I stood by the microwave, holding my mug with both hands, so no one saw my fingers tremble slightly, because it was me. I did that. A couple weeks later, HR wrote to me, just checking if I wanted vacation time. I realized I'd accumulated almost 28 days. I hadn't even noticed a year had passed. The next day, I applied for 2 weeks off. No plan, no itinerary, just be myself, without needing to be a normal employee. On the first vacation day, I woke at 11:30, made coffee, went out on the balcony, put on music, and, I kid you not, cried, just sat and cried, for 5 minutes. Not from pain, not from fear, but because it all came out, like I finally let myself feel everything I'd suppressed for months. It's August now. He still works here, still our manager, but we both know. Something changed. He softened. I became calmer. We avoid each other like old enemies who signed a truce but haven't forgotten who owes whom a slap. Recently, there was a company party. Beer, pizza, stupid team-building activities. He sat next to me, which was an event in itself, and at some point, slightly tipsy, he said, "You know, I think sometimes I went too far, not on purpose. Just, well, like, I had to show I lead. But probably overdid it. And, you know, I felt like someone taught me a lesson, in their own way, and maybe it was deserved." I nodded, pretended not to understand. Well, it's all in the past, he said and patted my shoulder. And I looked at him, at his slightly flushed face, at his hands that now tremble faintly when he holds his mug, and thought, oh, should you really change? Or just get scared? And which is worse? Sometimes I still open that screenshot. Penis Johnson, Senior Project Manager. I look, smile, save, close. It sits in a separate folder, on a renamed flash drive. Now it's called Penis Legacy RN. Yes, I kept it, cleaned it, renamed it, but didn't throw it away. Like a medal, or a reminder that I'm 100% sinless. But sometimes being sinless is a luxury, Ton. You don't have the right to if you want to and survive. And yes, my hair doesn't fall out anymore, at all. That's like an indicator. P.S. Sometimes I wonder, what if I'd been caught? What if he'd found out? Fired me? Sued me? Probably. But he didn't find out. And even if he suspects something, he'll never ask. Because if he asks, what if I say yes, and he couldn't handle another round? P.P.S. If any of you work at a company where the boss thinks he's a demigod and you're tools, know this, there are many ways to stand up for yourself. Not all are sensible. But sometimes the craziest thing is just to say, now you'll feel what I felt. A lot of time has passed since then. So much that I hesitated to tell this story. But today seems like the right time. You probably saw the standard line at the beginning. Names and locations changed for anonymity intent. Yes, some details were altered, but the essence remains. And the person I talked about is very real. He existed, he lived, he managed, and he changed. Yes, back then I called him Mr. Penis, and it felt just. He seemed like a tyrant asserting himself through the team. Harsh, nitpicky, cold. I was angry, I wanted payback, and I got it. But he surprised me. He didn't look for the guilty, didn't start a witch hunt, didn't become suspicious or vindictive. He, an adult with decades behind him, just reconsidered himself, reevaluated, changed his management style. Not radically, he remained himself. But the irritants disappeared. Something new appeared. Respect for people, attention, human warmth. And you know what's key? The team felt it, and gravitated toward him. He became a leader. People weren't afraid to ask questions. They sought his advice, shared with him, listened to him. And me, I came to respect him. Not because he softened, but because he could change. If someone pulled that stunt on you'd probably rage. I probably would too. But he didn't. He just drew conclusions, and became better. And honestly, even then I understood. He wasn't a villain, he was just human. With his own fears, habits, age. And now, years later, I think, maybe even a friend in some way. Now I'm a manager myself at another company, and I think of him more and more. His patience, his gaze, his path. I'm writing all this because my friend and mentor is gone. Pritish Nijawan passed away on August 31st, 2024. Sudden cardiac arrest. He was about 56. When I found out, I felt bitter. Not because we lost a colleague, because I lost a friend. The very man I once ridiculed. Then understood, and came to respect. Truly, memory of Pritish Nijawan, friend, mentor, and the man who once changed. Year of death, August 31st, 2024. Cause, heart attack.